Hi guys, Fire Players here and welcome back to another video on the channel. And today guys, I'm going to be making a video going over the teams contending for the top 8 in 2022. Now, there is plenty of teams that could definitely make a surprise pull into the 8, but there is probably 5 teams that sit above the rest that would like to make the 8. Now, of course, you've got your teams like Port Adelaide, Geelong, Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, those teams that will make the 8. So we're going to go count them up. We're going to see what spots we have, and we're going to see how would 5 go into that. So I went and counted up, and we pretty much have our top 6 pretty much confirmed, and that is Sydney, Brisbane, Port Adelaide, Melbourne, Geelong, and Western Bulldogs. So that's who will probably end up making the top 6. Now, there's 5 teams that I definitely think could be making the top 8 this year. Now, not all of them are going to make it, but there is 5 of them. So we're going to go in parts. We're going to be going one team at a time, and I'm just going to be going over why and how I think they're going to be making the 8. Now, we are going to be having a look at their fixtures. It's going to be a couple of minutes per team, and I'm just going to be explaining why I think they can make the 8. So we're going to go and just check out the teams first. So the team that finished 8th last year, definitely a team that could make the finals again is the Essendon Bombers. Now, again, their list is very good, and the next team is the Fremantle Dockers. I reckon they've built very well, and I reckon that they definitely have a team that could make them in the finals. The next team is GWS, also making the 8 last year, finishing in 7th position, but making it through to the semi-finals. And the next team is Richmond, and I definitely think they've got a very good list and could definitely make the finals this year. And well, the final team, which is probably the team that probably wouldn't finish in the 8 out of all these teams, is St Kilda. So we're going to be starting off with the St Kilda Footy Club, of course, just because I think we're going to be going over in chances. So the team that has the most chance, I'll be putting at the end. St Kilda have the least chance, so guess what? They get to go first. So St Kilda, look, they've got a good list. They've got some players like Jack Steele. They've got some really important players. But now we're going to go and check out their fixture and see what this means. Now, this is not a fixture reaction. We're going to be going over some big games. So, of course, contending with Fremantle in round 2, contending with Richmond in round 3. I'm not giving this a good look, contending with GWS in round 6. And then they're going to be going up against then they'll be having a good battle with Essendon later on in the year, before going head-to-head against Fremantle again later on in the year. And then their final game of the year is up against Sydney, which could be pretty big. So that is for St Kilda. Now we're going to be heading back to their logo. Now, with St Kilda, they can be one of those very interesting teams, very different teams where they can be good one week and they could definitely be absolutely horrible the next week. So this year for St Kilda, they've definitely got to build some consistency around them. Otherwise, a spot in the 8 probably won't be theirs, and that's why I've said them first. I just don't think they're going to finish in the 8. Now, I did include them in this video just because I think there's a couple of people that think this team is definitely an outside chance, which they are an outside chance. It's just they're not one of the red-hot favourites to perhaps go and finish 7th or 8th, because of course we've already got the top 6 decided. Now, of course, that could change as well, but for St Kilda, I reckon they'll be finishing 5th out of the teams that could make the 8. So, if you get what I mean, so I don't think they'll make the 8. I think they'll finish, then if you go 8, then you got 9, 10, 11, 12. They'll probably be finishing around that 12th, 11th-ish mark, and not able to make the 8 in 2022. But their list they do have a good list. They just can't really be rattled by injuries that much to St Kilda. And they've just got to find a good brand of footy that works. And they've got to make sure that they are beating a couple of those top 8 teams. If you can scalp wins over Richmond, St Kilda, not St Kilda, if you can scalp wins over Richmond, GWS, Essendon, Fremantle, other favourites for the 8, and then make sure that you're winning against those lower ranked teams. It doesn't matter if you drop games against the top teams. You've just got to make sure that you're winning, and you're winning big against those lower teams. That's what St Kilda have to do this year to make sure that they are making the 8. On to the next team now. So I think this team will be finishing 4th in the race to the 8, which means they're not going to get an 8th position. They're not going to finish in the 8 this year either, is the Essendon Football Club. Now, unfortunately enough for them, Essendon, they could be. I mean, they could definitely make the 8. They could cause a couple of surprise wins. Now, I've already gone over their fixtures, so we can definitely go back and have a good look at that one. But for Essendon, they do have some very good players. The improving Darcy Parish, Zach Merritt, Dylan Steele. If he can find a little bit of form, he could be good. And then, like, up forward, you got Peter Wright. Who knew he was going to be an absolute gun? Defence is a little bit interesting for Essendon. Now, I don't know if they really have a locked-in defence line for Essendon, but I do think that they are a good team and could definitely, again, contend with the 8. Now, I think they will probably be better than, they will be better than St Kilda this year, I would assume. Now, of course, it's just a prediction, but I just think Essendon will be that little bit better, that little bit stronger, and now it's time to go check out their fixture. So, of course, definitely a key for Essendon is that you got to try and take out games against, like, the Crows. Now, really, you got to try and take out this game against Fremantle as well. You'd want to be beating Collingwood, and then you'd want to be trying to beat Hawthorn. Definitely trying to beat Richmond. The thing is trying to beat these teams that are contending for the 8 and beating those lower teams, Carlton, St Kilda. That's going to be a very good battle, that one, I reckon. I reckon that's going to be one of the battles, perhaps, of the year, especially because you've got 2 teams that are contending for the 8 that could definitely make it. Should be beating West Coast like what they did last year. Last year was a good win for them. And then you got to try and take out against Gold Coast. You got to try and win those games. Now, Essendon definitely a team that could make the 8, especially if they try and win at least half of their games, then they should be in, unless if you've got another team trying to make the 8. This is so interesting. Like, there's just so many ways that this could work out. And who knows, maybe a team like Carlton could make the 8, but I wouldn't think so. It'd be probably down to one of these 5 teams that I'm saying, or 2 of them. But for Essendon, again, it's the key to, like, you've got a hard start of the fixture. You've got Geelong, Brisbane, Melbourne, so they'll probably go 0-3. But then you've got to really repair yourself by winning your next 3. And then you've got to try and take their momentum into the Western Bulldogs. You could definitely beat them. And then you got to take that momentum back into beating Hawthorn. Sydney could be tough, but you always have close games with them, so you could definitely win that one. Richmond next up, interesting game. Port Adelaide, you don't have to win that one. You should try and beat Carlton. Definitely should try and beat St Kilda and West Coast. Again, you don't have to beat Sydney, don't have to beat Brisbane, but then you got to come and bounce back against the Suns, the Pies, the Roos. You'd like to beat the Giants, and then pretty much from there, you've got Port Adelaide and Richmond, which could be a bit of a hard end to Essendon season. But again, this is very interesting, and it could go either way, really. So Essendon could finish quite high. They could definitely take 7th, or they could finish quite low. Now, again, this is very interesting as they just need to play their way, and they need to just try and make sure they're getting wins against the lower teams. Again, not necessarily having to beat the higher teams, but getting wins against the lower teams and those teams that are contending for the 8 is quite important if you want to make the 8. Now, the next team which will just miss out on the 8, I reckon, will be the GWS Giants. Now, again, I think they're going to have a good year this year. I reckon they're going to be a better, a stronger team than they were last year. But I think, I just don't think they're going to make the 8. I think they're going to finish really close. I reckon all these 5 teams are going to finish really close, probably from 7th to 11th, with probably about 2 wins separating them, probably. So it's going to be really close with these teams. So for the Giants, again, they've just got to maintain consistency, really. They've got to try and make sure they're beating those lower teams. Again, you don't have to beat the top teams, but GWS did have a couple of close encounters with lower ranked teams last year. So you got to make sure you're taking them out convincingly. You got to try and make sure you're taking them out by 30 points, around that kind of margin, and that you're not having close games with them. Although everyone loves to see close games, you really need to try and make sure that you're really pushing them out to that 30-40 point margin, especially against those lower teams like Adelaide, Carlton, Collingwood, North Melbourne, Gold Coast. The list goes on and on and on. Well, not on and on and on, but those teams in particular. And then against these teams that are all fighting for it, St Kilda, Richmond, Fremantle, GWS, St Kilda, Essendon, you've just got to try and make sure that you're beating them. It doesn't have to be by a lot, because then you would already have your wins and percentages sourced by the lower teams. If you play them enough times, you'll definitely have enough something substantial to build off of from them. And then you can take that further. So we're going to go look at their fixture and see how many times they play these bottom teams. And then that kind of gives you a rough look at what it could be like. Because like for GWS, you're talking serious firepower here, like in their team. Like Richmond, that's probably one that you'd be looking to beat. You'd want to beat Gold Coast by a lot, so then that's one. You'd want to be beating Fremantle and Gold Coast and St Kilda, 2 for Adelaide, 3 Carlton, 4 West Coast, 5 North, 6 Collingwood, 7 Hawthorn, and then you've got 8 Carlton, and then you've got 8 games of easiness, perhaps. So 8 games that are very winnable. And then you've got a few more against those good teams. So again, this puts GWS right in the hunt for the 8. Again, you don't really have to beat too many top teams. If you could scalp a win against Sydney or against Melbourne or even against Geelong or Brisbane, you could definitely see yourself a real good chance at maybe even taking 7th spot. And yeah. That's about it for the Giants. So they've got a very good team. Lockie Whitfield, Stephen Cornelio, Jacob Hopper, Josh Kelly, just to name a few of them. Now, did lose Finlayson this year for probably bargain price, so they'd be a little bit disappointed with that. And then they've still got some good players like Toby Green. You just got to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid this year, so then he can try and play as many games as possible. But yeah, other than that, the Giants are probably not a bad position. So, being completely honest, this is the 3rd team that I think would get in, but I reckon they could definitely get in. They just have to make sure they're winning a couple of games against these teams they're fighting for, and then maybe just a game against like Brisbane at Manuka or Geelong at Manuka, and then you're a chance. Like, you're a real chance to take 7th as well, not just 8th, get 7th. So it's going to be very interesting with the Giants this year to see how they go. And now we're heading into 2 teams that I personally think will get a spot in the 8th. So we're going to head to the 8th position team next. And the team that I think that would be the Fremantle Dockers. Now, of course, I think they could definitely make the 8 this year. Now, of course, I think they've got a good team. They've been kind of going through a little bit of a rebuilding stage. Now, Chera left, but the young guns that they've gotten in have been really good. They had 2 top 10 picks, and then they had another pick just outside the first round, which they managed to get a first round player from that first pick of the second round. So they would have been very lucky to get the WA trio, Matthew Johnson, Neil Erasmus, and Jai Miss. So they'd be very fortunate that West Coast didn't pick up Matthew Johnson, and now they've got a really good team. Matthew Johnson, hopefully you just fit into that role where Chera was, and you're in, boom. And then I reckon Fremantle, it's just not about kicking too many behinds this year. Your accuracy needs to get better, and they definitely know that. There was many games last year where they were scoring more behinds than goals, which probably cost them games as well. So really, this year, it's just about fixing up your accuracy, and if you do that, you are definitely in the 8, and we'll go and have a look at their fixture now and just see what it looks like. Now, for Fremantle, it's really important because it's their first lot of games that really sets them up for the rest of the year, and I've already gone over this. I've made a couple of videos talking about Fremantle themselves. They've got Adelaide, they've got St Kilda, they've got West Coast, they've got GWS, they've got Essendon, they've got Carlton, they've got Geelong, they've got North Melbourne, they've got Gold Coast, and they've got Collingwood, all in their first 10 games. So that's their first 10 rounds. You have to win as many of them games as possible, as many of them games as you possibly can. If you can snare 8 or 9 of them, you'll make the 8. Just because you look back here now and you see you got Melbourne, Brisbane, Hawthorn, Carlton, Port Adelaide, St Kilda, Sydney, Richmond, Melbourne, Western Bulldogs, West Coast, and GWS all after that. And that's a tough run home. So then you've got your 8 wins, and then you say, right, we've got to beat Hawthorn. That's 9 wins. Carlton, if you can try and beat Carlton, that's 10. If you can try and beat St Kilda, that's 11. That's pretty much you in. Then you just need one more win to really, really boost it, and then you can probably get that against West Coast. So realistically, I reckon Fremantle a good chance at making the 8. So, yeah, it all comes down, though. If they only win 5 of these first 10 games, they are done. They are not making the 8 in 2022. Just because of their back end of the fixture, how hard it is, they have to make sure they're winning these all these games early, and they've got to make sure they're in pretty much the top 4 after round 10, because you'll see they'll start sinking from there because they've got all the premiership contending teams this year. So it's very interesting for Fremantle, but they have to win those games. That is how they'll make the 8. So it's a little bit different for Fremantle, considering it goes easy and then it topples all the way down to hard in a heartbeat, with only a couple of easy games in that second half. So Fremantle, it's really interesting. It's do or die in the first 10 rounds. But yeah, Fremantle probably the most interesting team ahead of the 2022 season. Now, on to the final team. Now, the team that I think will finish 7th will be Richmond. I just think they are going to come back to their best this year. They were missing Dusty to finish off the year, which probably hurt them, and I just think they'll be right back to their best this year. Now, they were dropping games against Collingwood. They almost dropped a game against Hawthorn and North Melbourne, so they have to come back this year. And I reckon they're going to be better than ever, Richmond. I reckon they're going to, well, not better than ever, but I reckon they're going to be definitely maybe a premiership contending team perhaps this year. And if not a premiership contending team, definitely making the 8 this year, you'd be hoping, would be a standard for Richmond. Considering they've got a very good team, they've still got a team, almost the same team that won premierships in 2020. So realistically, I think Richmond should really be a chance again making the finals this year. I reckon last year was just an off year for Richmond. Going to go have a look at their fixture, and we're going to go and see what this means to their 2022 season. Now, the fixture makes it all up, really. They've got Carlton in the first round. They need to win against GWS in that second round. In round 3, they've got Richmond, which is a big game. Round 5, they've got Adelaide, which they need to win. Hope they shouldn't be dropping against West Coast in round 7. Shouldn't be dropping round 8 against Collingwood. Should be winning round 9 against Hawthorn. Round 10, Richmond Essendon, very close game there. And then you've got Richmond Geelong, which could be interesting. Back to a very good game. Richmond West Coast MCG should be winning that. Got to beat Gold Coast up at Metricon. Got to beat Marvel. You got to beat North at Marvel. Try and beat Fremantle at Marvel, which is definitely a game they could definitely win. And then you've got Hawthorn at the MCG and Essendon to end off the year. So that's how many wins? Possibly. Let's just go quickly over how many wins they should be getting. So then we'll just go over one. I think they could beat the Giants in round 2. So 2. 3 against the Saints, and then we've got 4, and then we've got 5, 6, 7. They will win one game against Essendon, that makes 8, 9, and then you've got 10, 11, 12, that's them in 13. Definitely a team that could come back to full strength. And then 14. This is a team that should be making the 8 this year. I'm talking serious business. Richmond are back in business in 2022. How big will that be? That will be absolutely massive for the Tigers, and they need to make the 8. They just need to win this year. So Richmond are one of the best chances for the 8 in 2022, I reckon. Their fixture tells it, their list tells it. I reckon they should be a team making the 8 and really trying to contend for a flag this year as well. See, if it's not making the 8, it should be going higher, and the fixture allows them to do that. I think Richmond are going to be a very good team in 2022. So now, you guys let me know. Will it be Richmond? Will it be St Kilda? Will it be GWS? Will it be Fremantle? Or will it be Essendon? So you guys let me know which of these 2 teams will make the 8 in 2022. Or let me know if you think it'll be a different team. Let me know if you think it'll be a really interesting or different team, because these seem to be the teams that come to mind to make the 8. But you guys let me know. Do you think it's a different team? Let me know in the comments who you think will make the 8. Feel free to let me know a ladder prediction as well. But I do hope you guys did enjoy this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you guys will never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye guys. Fire plays out.